So we're going to do the window panes and using cerulean blue, just cerulean blue. We'll put the first layer on in between those window panes or slats. And then we will highlight that. You know, I like this purple background on this because it helps. It helps with the colors. Okay. Someone, I was on Instagram and I follow a couple of artists, and one artist was saying, they were asking him about the underpainting that he does, the color that he's using. And it's like an orange color, washed. So it was one of these transparent quinacridone colors in orangey. And he does a wash over. And he was always, and then he paints. So he was asked a couple of times, why the orange color? And he said, because I like it. Because it makes me feel like I want to paint, you know, and I thought, you know what, that's a great idea. Yes, why not? If you like the color, use it, use that kind of wash on top if you don't want to work on white. And now I'm going to add white to cerulean blue. Not too much, but enough to create a highlight, a lighter. And I'm just going to come over here and go down with this. Now, what I do is halfway here, I start adding a little bit more cerulean into my blue, into the blue that has, you know, white in it. And halfway, I'm starting to darken a bit my cerulean at this point. Continue. And now I'm taking just cerulean blue and doing the bottom part. So I have a nice transition of blue from light to dark in the middle here. This is where I start adding more cerulean right there to the bottom. Continue to the bottom. Now I'm take more white and blue, put it in my blue, because acrylic dries darker, so I keep adjusting. And then start from here. I'm leaving a bit of blue in there, right there, where the frame meets the glass. Because the frame is going to cast a shadow, a bit of shadow on that glass. So when I get here, I'm going to take cerulean blue, same brush. Don't clean your brush. Just pick up some cerulean blue, and then mix it. It gives it that very soft transition. Nice transition. You know what? I'm going to take a bit of cerulean and white and put it here too. Just a bit, not as much as up here, because this is what this part is going to catch more light, and then it becomes darker at the bottom. Okay, let's Good. Okay, I'm gonna pause. Okay, so burnt umber and titanium buff. I'm just mixing them together. Don't use too much titanium buff. Just enough to get an off-white color. But keep in mind that we're going to use highlight more. So we don't want to highlight it too much at this point. And I'm using bright, bright brush right here. And then I will eventually change to a round brush. I'm leaving a bit of that brown in between so I can see the different layers or the you know the difference between the top part and the bottom part. But I will be cleaning it up too. I will be cleaning up this soon. So I'm just gonna put the off-white over all of the frame. And you see, it's going to dry darker, which is great because I don't want it, I want it to, it needs to dry darker so I can have room to highlight. You really don't want it to look perfect. It shouldn't. It should look a bit weathered. It would look nicer. And that weathered look will come when I start switch my brush to round. Because this is too big right now to give me the weathered look. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that. And I'm gonna come here. Give it a bit of color again. So what I tried to do is adjust this. You'll see in a minute why. I tried to adjust it and make it softer once I apply a color here. Because when you apply a color and it's a light color, this will look darker. So usually what I do is I go back and I adjust the value. Make it, adjust the value of the shadow underneath the window. Okay, I'm going to switch to round. I'm going to just come here. Okay.
Is that the same color?
Yeah, same color. For now, it's the same color. I'm just adjusting a bit, I'm just putting a bit of color where I couldn't use, I couldn't turn this with the uh, flat brush. And do this. And that the same here. Okay. Okay, that's good. So now I have a good coverage. I don't know why I have a feeling this is a bit crooked, but that's okay. So now I have a good coverage. Now, before I start applying more colors, I'm going to put the window slats. And if I make a mess, sometimes I make a mess with the window slats, I go over the blue, and I adjust that after I clean it up, because it's really hard not to make a mess. Okay, so now I have a good coverage. Now, I'm going to take a bit of white, put it in there, in the titanium buff, more white, and I'm going to come here. Make it look like it's weathered. And right here, highlight this. And try to leave. Here, I'm going to take some burnt umber titanium buff. Same here. Just to get a good detail in there of the different of the style of the window. Okay, that's good. Now more white into my titanium buff, and I'm just going to come here. And I'm not really kind of covering this in the highlights, and some areas I leave, so it looks kind of like I mentioned before, weathered. Some areas are fine here, more coverage. Then I go back to leaving some of the dark underneath showing through. Again, those slats. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to highlight all the way down. When you do the slats, keep the bottom part slightly darker. You know, I have to wait for it to dry, and then I go back and I adjust the value in the.
Yeah, this is harder than it looks.
Okay, I'm gonna stop in a minute so we can talk about that and then see how. We can fix that. You show me what's happening. Now this is the top of that windowsill. Usually you get more light here. And right there. Okay. And I'm going to highlight this detail. I'll stop in a, but I'm just going to highlight this and then I'll stop. I'll pause. Okay. Now take a bit of white, just white. The top of the windowsill. So for that little detail that sits, this detail right here, right there, and here. And I take brown titanium buff. I'm going to do the first layer, and it's like around. Oh, you can't see it. I'm going to go darker. Round. And then turn it that way. Again. The other side. Round. And then turn it that way. And then what I did is I put two little circles. One here. And one here. It's very hard when it with a small on a small canvas. Now I'll take and highlight them first. So round, and then it just goes in and then out again. I take white. See what I mean when I said you can never get the both sides exactly the same? Now I go out, use titanium, ultramarine violet. And I'm just gonna come in here. Ultramarine violet or brown, doesn't matter, you know, and just adjust the shape from outside. Negative painting, kind of. The
Shadow? Yeah.
kind of like, because what's happening with this with the canvas I'm using, because it's not a canvas, it's um, the flat
Paper?
canvas.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the detail. It's not, the detail is not, the canvas is not cooperating. It's giving me a hard time. So I'm trying to adjust the shape. It's more than it's not really the shadow, it's the shape of the detail. See, it's I try to put the color on and then it moves. It's so small, this detail, that I am not really concerned about that. The shadow, but yeah, there is a shadow there for sure. It's not flat. It's sitting on the wall, like it's higher than the wall.
I knew there was a reason for me to drive in today.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so right here we have a bit of shadow in here, a little bit, and the shadow is I'm using here, whatever. Even if I know I'm using just purple, but even if I'm using brown, I make it into, make sure it's a glaze. It's more like a watercolor. A little bit of darker here. Oh, jeez, I'm a bit of shadow in here just to give that first part of the wooden piece on top a bit of separated from the one on top of it. There. All right. Now, because everything, all the colors settled, it's settling, I can go back and fix anything that, if I find that it's too busy, the pattern doesn't look good, it needs to be softened, it needs to be simplified. I do that at this point. Usually in the original one, the reference, this round here is smaller. I'm just having a hard time controlling the brush and the paint on this canvas board. Okay, cerulean blue, bit of burnt umber, any color that makes your blue darker. It doesn't have to be exactly the same color. Just make it darker. And I'm gonna come here. Even if you put cerulean blue in a bit of Payne's gray, and then I'm gonna do this. So this window slat is not, the slats are not against, flat against the window pane. There's a bit of a, it's not in the original. I don't know why I missed it, but it's missed, I missed it there. And you can see as soon as I do this, it gives it depth. First it was flat. It was like, okay, that's wood, and then there's glass, but it's flat. Not around the whole thing, just kind of part of it, especially top part here. If you don't want to do anything, just do the top part. At this point, I mentioned before that this looks now dark. It looks really too dark. So I'm going to take my yellow ochre. And let me see if I put just yellow ochre. Yeah, I think that works. It's like a glaze over some yellow ochre. It still looks dark, but it's a bit more. Let's put some, I'm adding a touch of burnt umber with my yellow ochre. And usually, you know what? I'm going to leave it this way. That's good, because what's going to happen later on, the flowers are going to go over it. So it will cover, that will cover a lot of this. Don't have to work on it too much. This is white and titanium buff. Kind of thick paint. Titanium buff and white again. with a round brush. I have to keep adjusting because it dries darker and I lose the highlight I had before. Just because acrylics is like that. Need to keep on adjusting color. See, I'm highlighting this, but I'm not taking it all the way up. It's only down from here, down, from here, down. That will give me a really nice, interesting highlight.